The highway stretched endlessly, its cracked asphalt covered in rusting cars, shattered glass, and dried remnants of a world long gone. Alex Carter didn't have the luxury to take in the apocalyptic scenery. His breath came in ragged gasps, his legs burning as he forced himself to keep running. Behind him, the sound of hundreds of shuffling feet grew louder, an unstoppable tide of the undead. His heart pounded in his chest. They were gaining on him. Alex's booted feet slammed against the pavement as he scanned the road ahead. Up ahead, a collapsed overpass created a jagged barricade of twisted steel and concrete, blocking the road. There was no way through. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. A sharp scream cut through the air. Alex skidded to a stop, his head snapping to the side. There, trapped between two overturned cars, was a woman with a bloodied leg. She clutched a makeshift spear, a rusted metal pipe, her face contorted in terror as she swung wildly at an approaching zombie. The monster lunged, its rotting hands inches from her throat. Without thinking, Alex yanked his hunting knife from his belt and sprinted toward the scene. He reached the creature just in time, plunging the blade deep into the base of its skull. The zombie went limp, collapsing against the car. The woman stared at Alex, panting. You saved me." Alex wasn't here to make friends. He turned toward the horde, too many to fight, too close to escape on foot. His mind raced. "We need to move," he said, grabbing her arm and hoisting her up. "Can you run?" She winced, trying to put weight on her injured leg. "Not fast enough." Alex glanced around. They were surrounded by abandoned vehicles. A wrecked semi-truck sat nearby, its doors ajar. A quick shelter, but not a long-term solution. "Over there," he pointed. "We can hide for a bit." They hobbled toward the truck, Alex practically dragging the woman, Riley, she later introduced herself, inside. He slammed the doors shut just as the first zombies reached them, their decaying hands clawing at the windows. Inside the cab, Riley gritted her teeth, clutching her leg. Alex peeked out. The horde stretched down the road as far as he could see. "We're trapped," Riley whispered. Alex wasn't ready to die here. His eyes landed on the truck's dashboard. A flare gun, tucked into a compartment. He grabbed it, an idea foaming. "We make a run for it," he said, loading the flare. Riley frowned. "And run where?" Alex smirked. "Where they aren't looking." With a deep breath, he flung the door open and fired the flare in the opposite direction. The burning red light streaked into the sky, bursting into a shower of sparks. As expected, many of the zombies turned, drawn to the sudden light. It wasn't a perfect distraction, but it gave them seconds they desperately needed. "Move!" Alex shouted. Riley, leaning on him, struggled to keep pace, but they pushed forward. Alex spotted an opening in the barricade ahead. If they could squeeze through, they might just make it. But just as they reached it, a low growl sent a chill down Alex's spine. He turned. Standing in their path was something far worse than a regular zombie. It was taller, its body distorted, its jaw unhinged as a guttural snarl escaped its throat. A new kind of nightmare. Alex barely had time to react before it lunged. The air reeked of rot and decay as Alex and Riley ducked into the narrow gap between the overturned cars. The mutated zombie's guttural snarl echoed behind them, followed by the frenzied moans of the approaching horde. Alex knew they couldn't stop. The distraction from the flare had only bought them a few precious seconds, and now that window was rapidly closing. Riley stumbled, gripping her injured leg. I can't." "Yes, you can," Alex snapped, looping her arm around his shoulders as he pulled her forward. "No stopping. Not now." Behind them, the massive creature slammed against the wrecked vehicles, its clawed fingers scraping against the metal. The weight of the monster caused the cars to shift, metal groaning under pressure. Any second now, it would push through. Alex spotted a wrecked truck up ahead, its driver's side door hanging open. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. He dragged Riley toward it, half carrying her inside before slamming the door shut. The cab was cramped, the windshield cracked, but it would hold, at least for a little while. "Keep your head down," Alex muttered as he peered out the broken window. The flare's glow had faded, and the undead were slowly redirecting their attention. Some still wandered toward the remnants of the light, but others sniffed the air, their hollow eyes scanning for movement. And then there was it, the hulking zombie. It stood taller than the others, its grotesquely stretched limbs making it look like something out of a nightmare. Its head twitched, as if sniffing the air. The smaller zombies stayed back, almost as if they feared it. Alex swallowed hard. This wasn't like the other undead. It was different. Smarter? Stronger? Either way, he wasn't about to find out the hard way. Riley clutched her injured leg, sucking in a sharp breath. "That thing, it's not normal." "No kidding," Alex muttered, keeping his voice low. He looked around for options. "We need to get out of here before it finds us." Riley groaned. "You got a plan, genius?" Alex ignored the sarcasm and glanced at the dashboard. The truck's keys were missing, of course. But in the glove compartment, he found something useful, a small hunting knife and an old, dented canteen. He tossed the canteen to Riley. "Drink. You're gonna need your strength." Riley took a sip, wincing. "Tastes like rust." "Better than dying of thirst," Alex said, sliding the knife into his belt. He took another look outside. The mutated zombie had moved closer, sniffing the air. Then, suddenly, its head snapped toward the truck. Alex's blood turned to ice. It knew. The creature let out an unearthly screech and charged. "Move!" Alex yanked Riley toward the other door just as the monster crashed into the truck, sending it tilting sideways. They barely managed to scramble out before the vehicle tipped, slamming onto its side. The noise was deafening. The Horde reacted instantly, dozens of zombies turning toward the commotion. Alex and Riley didn't wait, they ran. Pain shot through Alex's legs as he forced himself to move. Riley gritted her teeth, limping beside him, but her injuries slowed them down. The city skyline loomed ahead, broken skyscrapers standing like tombstones against the gray sky. A sharp whistle cut through the air. Alex skidded to a stop, yanking Riley back just in time. A steel cable snapped down in front of them, nearly taking Alex's head off. "What the hell?" Riley gasped. Another whistle. Alex turned, and saw them. A group of survivors, perched on the skeletal remains of an old highway sign. They wore mismatched armor, scrap metal, leather, whatever they could find. Their faces were masked with scavenged gas masks and helmets. And they were armed. A man holding a scoped rifle waved them forward. "Run, you idiots!" Alex barely had time to think before a deafening explosion rocked the street behind them. Fire erupted as a crude pipe bomb sent zombies flying. The mutated one howled in fury, momentarily disoriented. Alex didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed Riley, and they sprinted toward the strangers, toward the unknown. But deep down, he knew one thing: in this world, sometimes the living were just as dangerous as the dead. Alex and Riley barely had time to react before strong hands grabbed them, yanking them onto the skeletal remains of the old highway sign. The masked survivors pulled them up with surprising speed, securing the ladder behind them. Below, the explosion had sent a shockwave through the street, reducing some of the zombies to scorched corpses. But the mutated one, that thing, was still standing, howling in rage as it scanned for its prey. A man in a scavenged military vest stepped forward, removing his gas mask. His sharp green eyes assessed Alex and Riley with a calculating glare. His face was scarred, his dark hair matted with grime. "You just led a whole damn horde to our doorstep," he growled. Not exactly the smartest move. Alex caught his breath, his instincts screaming danger. Something about this guy put him on edge. "We didn't have a choice," he shot back. "That thing was hunting us." The man's gaze flickered to Riley, who was still clutching her injured leg. His expression remained unreadable. One of the masked survivors, a woman with a bow slung over her shoulder, leaned in toward their leader. "Drake, we should leave them. They're dead weight." Alex tensed. Dead weight? Drake sighed, rubbing his temples. We don't have time for this. He turned to Alex. You're coming with us. Try anything stupid, and I'll put a bullet between your eyes. Alex clenched his jaw. They were in no position to argue. Riley was in bad shape, and the Horde was still swarming below. For now, going with them was the only option. Drake gave a signal, and his people moved fast. Using makeshift zip lines, they descended from the highway structure onto a nearby rooftop. Alex hesitated for only a second before securing Riley to himself. This is a bad idea, she muttered as they hooked onto the line. Got a better one? She didn't answer. With a deep breath, Alex jumped. The wind roared in his ears as they zipped across the street, landing hard on the roof. Riley winced in pain, but they had made it. Drake led them through a series of broken buildings, moving like a well-trained unit. Every movement was precise, every step calculated. Alex kept his guard up, taking in every possible exit. Finally, they reached an old hotel, its windows boarded up, the entrance fortified with scrap metal. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of sweat, gun oil, and something rotten. Survivors milled about, some cleaning weapons, others whispering in hushed tones. Drake motioned for his people to lower their weapons. Welcome to Haven, he said, voice laced with sarcasm. Don't get too comfortable. Alex's gut told him this was far from a haven. Riley sagged against him, her strength fading. She needs medical attention, Alex said, keeping his tone firm. Drake smirked. That depends. On what? Drake leaned in. On whether you're useful to us. Alex clenched his fists. He had a feeling that escaping the zombies was only the beginning of his problems. The dimly lit interior of Haven was anything but welcoming. Makeshift barricades, scavenged weapons, and hardened survivors filled the old hotel lobby, their eyes cold and watchful. Alex felt the weight of every gaze, each one measuring him up as either a threat or an asset. Drake leaned against a rusted reception desk, arms crossed. So, tell me, Alex. What can you offer us? Alex clenched his jaw. I can fight. Drake smirked. Yeah? So could the last guy who showed up here. You want to know what happened to him? Alex didn't answer. Drake's smirk widened. He got slow. Got careless. Now he's part of that horde outside. Riley groaned, leaning against Alex. The blood on her pant leg had darkened, and her breathing was getting shallow. She needs help, Alex insisted. Drake studied her for a long moment, then nodded to the woman with the bow, the one who had wanted to leave them behind earlier. Cora, take her to document. Cora scowled but obeyed, helping Riley limp toward a back room. Alex watched her go, feeling an uneasy knot tighten in his stomach. Drake turned back to him. Now, let's talk about you. Before Alex could respond, a sharp alarm blared through the building. Instantly, every survivor in the room sprang into action, grabbing weapons and taking defensive positions. Drake cursed. They found a way in. Alex's pulse spiked. The Horde? Drake shook his head. Worse. The building trembled as an explosion echoed from outside. Alex rushed to a window and peered out. Beyond the barricades, figures moved in the shadows, not zombies, but people. He spotted torches, makeshift explosives, and men armed with rifles. Raiders. They've been testing our defenses for days, Cora said as she returned. Looks like they finally got tired of waiting. Drake grabbed a rifle from a nearby crate and tossed Alex a machete. Hope you weren't lying about knowing how to fight. Alex caught the weapon and tightened his grip. Time to prove yourself. The first explosion tore through the barricade, sending metal shards flying. Gunfire erupted as Haven's defenders opened fire. Alex ducked behind cover, adrenaline surging through him. The raiders moved fast, weaving between the ruins, using smoke bombs to obscure their approach. Drake cursed. They know our weak spots. Alex scanned the battlefield, assessing the chaos. Then, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Beyond the raiders, moving through the smoke. The mutated zombie. It had followed them. And now, it was about to turn this battle into a slaughter. Gunfire cracked through the air as Haven's defenders fought to hold back the raiders. Smoke choked the streets, swirling between the burning barricades as shadows darted through the chaos. Alex gripped the machete tightly, his heart hammering. The raiders were ruthless, using the destruction as cover to push forward. But Alex wasn't focused on them anymore. Beyond the fire and the bullets, the mutated zombie moved with terrifying purpose. Its grotesque frame stood taller than any human, muscles stretched unnaturally beneath decayed flesh. Its sunken eyes locked onto the battlefield, lips peeling back in a blood-chilling snarl. The raiders hadn't seen it yet. Alex did. And he knew exactly what was about to happen. The monster let out a deafening screech and lunged. It crashed through the barricade with inhuman speed, its massive arms swiping through raiders like they were paper. Bones snapped, bodies flew, and suddenly, the battle wasn't just between humans anymore. The raiders screamed as the creature tore into them. Blood painted the broken concrete. A raider leader, a burly man with a scarred face, pointed toward the horror. "Fall back." Too late. The mutated zombie grabbed him, lifting him into the air before slamming him against the ground with sickening force. Alex saw the opportunity and seized it. He turned to Drake. "We use the chaos to take them out." Drake nodded, already raising his rifle. "Do it." Alex charged. He weaved through the battlefield, slashing at raiders distracted by the beast. One lunged at him with a knife. Alex sidestepped and drove his machete into the attacker's ribs. Another aimed a pistol, but before he could fire, a defender from Haven took him down with a well-placed shot. The tide was turning. The raiders were losing ground, torn between Haven's forces and the rampaging monster. But then, Alex heard something that made his stomach drop. Riley's scream. He spun, eyes searching. Across the battlefield, near the collapsed barricade, a raider was dragging her away. Her injured leg made it impossible to resist, and she clawed at the dirt, fighting against her captor's grip. Alex felt white-hot rage surge through him. He bolted. Cutting through the chaos, dodging bullets and debris, he sprinted toward Riley. The raider saw him coming and pulled out a pistol. Alex didn't stop. Just as the man squeezed the trigger, Alex threw himself forward, driving his machete into the raider's chest. The gun fired, a wild shot, before the man crumpled. Alex grabbed Riley, pulling her to her feet. "Can you run?" he asked, breathless. She gritted her teeth. "Just move." Supporting her, Alex turned back toward the hotel. The raiders were in full retreat now, scattered and broken. The mutated zombie, its hunger still unsatisfied, let out a guttural snarl before disappearing into the smoke. The battle was over. But something told Alex this war was just beginning. The air was thick with smoke and the stench of blood. The last of the raiders had either fled or been torn apart, but Haven was left in ruins. Fires crackled, the barricades were in shambles, and bodies, human and undead, littered the battlefield. Alex half-carried Riley toward the remnants of the fortified hotel. She was pale, her leg wound worse than before, but her grip on his arm was still strong. That meant she wasn't giving up. Drake stood near the wreckage, rifle resting on his shoulder. His sharp eyes scanned the destruction, his jaw clenched. "We won," Alex said, his voice hoarse. Drake didn't look at him. "No. We survived." Cora, the archer, emerged from the ruins. "Casualties?" Drake exhaled sharply. "Too many." Haven was barely standing. The raiders were gone for now, but that thing, the mutated zombie, had disappeared into the smoke. That was worse. It meant it could return. Alex sat Riley down on a stack of broken crates, glancing at her wound. "We need to clean this." Cora tossed him a first aid kit. "Doc didn't make it," she muttered. "You're on your own." Alex swallowed hard but nodded. He worked quickly, tearing away the ruined fabric of Riley's jeans, cleaning the wound as best he could. She bit down on her lip but didn't cry out. "You're getting better at this," she muttered. "I've had practice," Alex said, bandaging the wound tightly. Drake crouched in front of them, his expression unreadable. "That thing that attacked, it followed you." Alex tensed. "We didn't lead it here on purpose." Drake studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Doesn't matter. Haven's compromised. We need to move." Cora scoffed. "Move where?" "This was the safest place we had." Drake's gaze hardened. "It was safe." "Not anymore." The truth settled over them like a heavy weight. Haven was no longer a refuge. It was a death trap. Alex exhaled, glancing at Riley. She was in no condition to run again, but staying meant waiting for death. Then, from the ruined street, a low, inhuman growl echoed through the night. Every survivor froze. It was still out there. And it was hunting them. Drake stood. "We leave at first light." Alex tightened his grip on his machete. They had survived the raiders. Now, they had to outrun the Horde again. The first light of dawn barely pierced through the thick clouds of smoke as Haven's survivors prepared to leave. The once fortified hotel, now a broken shell of its former self, was eerily silent, except for the distant sounds of the undead lurking in the ruins. Alex tightened his grip on Riley's arm, helping her stay steady as they moved. Her wound was wrapped, but she was still weak. If they had to run again, he wasn't sure she'd make it. Drake led the group, his rifle slung over his shoulder. "We stick to the back streets, avoid open areas," he said, voice sharp with command. "The Horde is still out there, and that thing," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. They all knew it was still hunting them. Cora moved ahead, scouting the path, while the remaining survivors carried whatever supplies they could salvage. There weren't many of them left, less than a dozen. Some limped from injuries, others walked in a daze, still processing the horrors of the night before. Alex stayed near the back, keeping Riley close. He glanced over his shoulder at the ruins of Haven. It wasn't much, but it had been something. Now, it was just another graveyard. They moved through the ruined city in silence, stepping carefully through the debris-covered streets. Cars were left abandoned, their windows shattered, doors hanging open. Some had dried blood smeared across them, a grim reminder of how fast everything had fallen apart. Then, Cora held up a fist, signaling for them to stop. Alex tensed, gripping his machete. Drake crept forward. "What is it?" he whispered. Cora pointed toward an alleyway up ahead. Shadows moved between the wreckage, slow, unsteady figures. Zombies. Dozens of them. Alex's heart pounded. "Can we go around?" Drake scanned the area. "Maybe, but we'd be out in the open. If that thing is still tracking us." A loud crash echoed through the streets. Every head snapped toward the source. A lone survivor, one of the injured, had collapsed against a rusted dumpster, knocking over a pile of debris. The sound was deafening in the silence. The zombies turned. For a moment, everything was still. Then, the Horde charged. "Run!" Drake shouted. The survivors scattered, sprinting through the ruins as the undead swarmed toward them. Alex grabbed Riley and pulled her forward. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to run despite the pain. Gunfire erupted behind them. Cora and the others were trying to hold them back, but there were too many. And then, that inhuman screech. Alex's blood ran cold. The mutated zombie was here. It burst through the Horde, moving with terrifying speed, slamming into the nearest survivor and tearing them apart like paper. Drake fired his rifle, bullets slamming into its rotting flesh, but it barely reacted. It was getting stronger. Alex's mind raced. They couldn't outrun it forever. They had to stop it. Then, he saw it. A crumbling skyscraper, its supports weakened from past destruction. A plan formed in his mind. He turned to Drake. "We bring it down." Drake followed his gaze, understanding dawning in his eyes. You're insane. Got a better idea? Drake didn't answer. Because they both knew. This was their only chance. The mutated zombie roared, its grotesque form pushing through the horde like a predator among prey. Its soulless eyes locked onto the fleeing survivors, its hunger driving it forward with terrifying speed. Alex had no time to hesitate. If they didn't act now, no one would make it out alive. Drake! Cora! Get everyone clear! Alex shouted. Drake didn't argue. He grabbed the nearest survivor and shoved them toward the alley. Move! Now! Cora loosed a final arrow into the crowd of zombies before sprinting away, covering the others as they fled. Alex turned to Riley. She was pale, breathing heavily, her injured leg barely holding her up. You have to go, he said, gripping her shoulders. Her eyes widened in panic. I'm not leaving you. He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. Trust me. I'll be right behind you. She hesitated, then nodded weakly. Drake pulled her away, half carrying her toward safety. That left Alex standing alone in the crumbling street as the horde rushed forward. And behind them, the mutant. The plan was insane. But it was the only shot they had. Alex turned and sprinted toward the ruined skyscraper. He weaved through rusted cars and broken pavement, forcing the monster to chase him. The skyscraper loomed ahead, its foundation cracked, its support beams barely holding. One strong impact and it would fall. Alex skidded to a stop near a half-collapsed section of the building. The mutant let out an ear-splitting screech and charged. Come on, just a little closer. The ground trembled beneath its steps. Alex waited until the last second, then dove out of the way. The mutant slammed into the weakened foundation. The entire building groaned in protest. Cracks splintered through the concrete. Glass shattered from the windows above. The mutant stumbled, momentarily dazed. And then the skyscraper collapsed. A deafening roar filled the air as steel and stone caved in. Dust exploded outward, swallowing everything in a choking cloud. The horde was crushed beneath the weight of the destruction. And the mutant? It let out one final, piercing shriek before disappearing beneath the rubble. Silence followed. Alex lay sprawled on the ground, dust coating his skin, lungs burning from the debris. His ears rang. His body ached. But he was alive. A shadow loomed over him. Drake. The older man extended a hand. You're either the dumbest guy I've ever met, or the luckiest. Alex let out a breathless chuckle and took the hand, allowing Drake to pull him up. Riley limped forward, her eyes shining with relief. You said you'd be right behind us. Alex grinned, wiping the dust from his face. Told you I don't break promises. She punched his arm. Never do that again. The remaining survivors gathered, staring at the ruins of the skyscraper. The battle was over. But the world was still broken. The undead were still out there. Drake exhaled. We need to keep moving. Alex looked toward the horizon. The road ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear. They had outrun the horde. For now.